representatives from NOC-AD, NOC-WD, ONR, and the FRC, and the Admiral will be moderating the panel. They're each going to talk for up to 10 minutes, just an intro. The subject matter we're focused on primarily, but not exclusively, is how do we go faster and how these organizations are trying to attack that problem. After we get done with this, we'll have a break, and then I'll be covering the white paper submission plan for PEO, UNW, and we always try and forward anything we receive to any other entities that we think might be interested. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Admiral, you want them to talk first? Okay, if you guys just want to take turns, 10 minutes each. Okay.
You want to go? Go ahead. All right. Hey, I'm Steve Critchie, the Executive Director of the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division, NOC-AD, headquartered here at Pax River with folks in Orlando and doing training systems, and Lakehurst doing aircraft launch and recovery equipment and support equipment. Oh, they got a slide up there. So I was testing the boundaries of our ability to clear a publicly released slide for public release. So I wasn't sure I'd be able to show these slides, but it really doesn't matter the details on the slides themselves. But the one that's up behind me now is showing essentially how we characterize the framework of what we do at NOC-AD in terms of the enabling capabilities we have, workforce, infrastructure, the tools we use, the technology we develop, and how that flows up into programs that we support, and then warfighting capability. And the reason I'm showing that is there are three mechanisms typically that industry engages the Warfare Center and us to industry. One of them is in what we would call acquisition support. It's augmentation of our workforce. That's the largest kind of contracting we do with industry, where we either have capacity needs or capability needs, typically in emergent skill sets, where we would leverage industry to say, we need your help. And that's a substantial, looking at the number here, it's a substantial percentage of our contract dollars go to that. The second piece is reaching out to industry for help with our organic capabilities, our range infrastructure, things like that. Still working in the enabler category, the things that programs use to develop, test, and sustain the warfighting systems. That's about 5% of the dollars we spend on contracting. The third area, and the reason I think everybody's here today, is this capability development and rapid integration and offering experimentation venues for technology or capability that might be leveraged to close warfighter gaps. And so that also is a relatively small percentage of the dollars we contract for. Our goal through forums like this is to expand that part of our portfolio. And so no one, I don't think, needs to reinforce to the folks in this room that there's a sense of urgency. The urgency we can bring to the table is we have non-traditional, non-FAR-based contracts that we can leverage to get inside what you might call a typical acquisition cycle time, and to help develop, help demonstrate, put things into operationally representative environments, experiments, fleet-focused experiments, things like that. And then the kind of price of admission for that stuff is simply relevance, characterizing capability, potential in terms of what kind of delta outcome are we going to achieve, not technology for technology's sake per se, but really what are we going to, what game are we changing for the warfighter, for a warfighting capability, for a mission thread with this kind of technology. Okay, in the next slide, I told Stephen I wasn't going to have any slides, and I wasn't going to wear a tie. A hoodwinked my WD buddy. Sorry, man. I really did. I didn't mean to. So this slide is simply a way for me to articulate that whether it's through TechBridge, industry engagements like this, our relationship with academia, other syscoms, other warfare centers, our sister warfare center out west, the FRCs, there's an ecosystem of collaboration and partnership. The center column are the mechanisms for how we do what I just described here on the previous slide about getting technology, getting partnerships into the organization. And so the most convenient way to describe how to enter our ecosystem in the Warfare Center is, I'm going to make him raise his hand, Rick Tarr. That's him next to the camera back there. He leads our technology transition office. If you go to navair.navy.mil/NOCAD, there's a link there for how to contact us, how to enter the ecosystem, right? I think the white paper stuff we'll talk about is another way to do that. Again, with Delta outcomes identified, those float to the top, at least if I'm doing the triage. And then finally, last slide, last thing I'll say is what you're seeing is kind of a stack up along the kind of innovation pipeline that shows the ways we incubate, curate, develop, and then ultimately deliver capability. And so you see the things stacked up. If you go into that room at the far end, you'll see some of the enablers that help us with this. The NASC, our relationship with the Patuxent Partnership and others help us incubate this kind of technology. So there's certainly tremendous opportunity to partner between the Warfare Center and industry on, as I mentioned, those three different ways, but here we're principally focused on capability delivery. We have seen, I think, the ARPED office talked this morning about a capability for P8, maybe it was yesterday. And so we do have examples where we're turning inside traditional acquisition cycle times to show relevant technology capability that then spins out into programs of record. So happy to be here today and looking forward to the engagement here a little bit later. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Just like Ms. Corzine said yesterday, you get to follow the lunch comas. Looks like some people forgot to take the left-hand turn, come back to the airport road. My name is Stephen Farmer. I'm the Director for Advanced Concepts, Prototyping, and Experimentation at NOCWD. Mr. Dan Carreño, Steve's counterpart, Executive Director, sends his regards. He wasn't able to make it, so he sent the Z team, I think it was, not quite the AA team. So one thing I do appreciate, want to extend a well done, sir, to Admiral Tedford, you and your team. This is a great forum. Also, the facility done an outstanding job, so well done. I will tell you, had an industry day back in July that I participated in, and they actually made me part of NOC AD. So this time I'm part of NOC WD, so I'm happy to be part of the left-hand coast. So a little bit about NOC WD on the West Coast, for those you might not be aware of it. 5.5 million square feet of infrastructure out there, 20,000 miles of restricted airspace, 1,829 square miles of land ranges. We have a little bit of land out there, 36,000 square miles of sea range that we can test in, and about over 2,700 test events per year. So we keep a little bit busy. We have about 6,000 people, civilian military employees, weapons division. So we do weapons out there, propulsion, energetic materials. We also involved with electronic warfare, aircraft systems integration. You saw from PMA 208 earlier that today we also build and support a lot of the test target threat target systems out there, as well as other research development as well. Also, why we're here is looking to partner. We keep hearing about urgency. We keep hearing about partnership. So we're open for business. Same thing with Mr. Critchie talked about as far as putting out their capability. That's where we're interested of how to partner to deliver capability, not just look at how to develop technology for technology's sake. We've heard that numerous times. We support full life cycle support for mission systems, weapon development. In fact, just yesterday, we conducted a test for a new propulsion system called a solid fuel ramjet, and with our counterparts at Air Force and Tullahoma, one of the first free jet tests of testing high Mach number for a solid fuel ramjet, not a liquid fuel. So new technology that we actually came across in the 70s. We shelved it because of the technology maturation at the time, but we picked it up over the last number of years and continue to expand and mature that technology that we're excited to do. Over 24 cooperative research development agreements with prime contractors, small businesses, academia, non-traditional partners. We love it, right? We're open for business. Number of commercial service agreements. We don't have our counterparts to RICTAR, but RICTAR is very well aligned with the folks out on the West Coast. So if you're interested, Rick is the guy for us as well. He'll put you in with the right person, which is not me. So he knows it better than I do. Last year we had a commercial service agreements over 27 for $11 million. This year it's about 12 amendments, 4 tasks for about $7 million. Number of patent license agreements, a number of partnering. Again, we're looking to go fast, which is always interesting coming from the government. What does that mean? Okay, less than 10 years. Can we say that? That would be fast. But in all seriousness, for the folks that were here yesterday, I thought Mr. Pete Crosby's brief was spot on. It's something I'm aware of it on a weekly basis, and it's one of those deals that we need to get the word out. And I know I can sit in the audience and kind of say, well, what does urgency mean when your contractors are slow, when your contracts are slow, when your security is slow? Part of the message I like to convey to new employees that come into, and I'd like to share with you, is all this is true, and the fleet still needs it. All right. I mean, a lot of you folks here are former military. You probably have sons and daughters. I have a future son-in-law in the South Pacific. All right. It's real. It's real for me. That's my urgency. He's not on a carrier, he's in a sub, but that becomes personal. And so I'm all about speed to fleet. And I know you folks are as well. I'm not trying to downplay that, but that's when it comes down to, and it gets real for myself personally. So that's urgency for me. And hopefully you guys, men and women out there, I know you feel it, and we need to figure out, how do we get through contracts? How do we get through security? How do we get through IT? Because it doesn't matter for the men and women out there in the South Pacific right now. Okay, thank you.
I'm Steve. Oh, I already went.
Hey there, folks. Good afternoon. Captain Pete Laddles. We're going to throw a bit of a audible here. So here today to discuss what ONR is and how we're bringing capabilities to the fight. I would like to recognize some ONR personnel in the crowd in case there are things that I skip or you have questions on and you can't get a hold of me. These are the folks that asked to be here a little while longer. We have Commander Kyle, call sign Angry McDaniel, is here in the crowd. He's the ONR Code 35 MILDEP. We have Mr. Wally Moore from the ONR Flight Control Effort, who's here in the crowd too. And Rick Tarr, I think this is the Rick Tarr show. So Rick's here as well. So ONR, I don't know, slide 2 here. We are part of the Naval Research and Development Enterprise, call sign Nerdy. I didn't make it up, but there we have it. So it includes what we call the NRE, the Naval Research Enterprise, as well as the Warfare Center, Syscoms, and academic partners as well. Our mission is focused on identifying and investing in science and also technology that can provide benefit. They're the warfighter for today and also tomorrow. We also have the ancillary benefit of trying to invest in the future S&T workforce, right? So we're looking at what's going on right now as well as 30 years down the road. The NRE itself here is comprised of ONR as an Echelon 1 command. So that means that we report there directly to SecNav. In fact, that's where my boss is right now. He's sitting on that SecNav panel, which is why he can't be here today. And we have 4 Echelon 2 commands. We have the Naval Research Lab, which is working capital funded. And they're doing real bench science there over in Anacostia. They're doing some great work. We have ONR Global, which is responsible for ensuring that the U.S. remains the partner of choice there for the globe and our global partners, and also maintaining global technology awareness. They have offices in London, Santiago, Chile, Prague, Tokyo, Singapore, and we're looking for more. They also have the experimentation lead, which is a small fund within ONR, typically about $30 million a year. But they also do a lot of our fleet efforts there. PMR 51 we have, which is a lot of classified related work, and Naval X, that's our newest one, which is tasked with being the primary conduit here by which we learn about what's going on in the private sector. It also houses our Navy cyber program as well as tech transfer. And they do a lot of their linkage through their Tech Bridge program, which again is related here to Rick. They've got a few things, like again, there should be named affiliation H2 here in the next coming weeks, but there also are linkage with the venture capital community as well. ONR itself, here in FY23, including plus ups, we're about a $3.5 billion budget. And think of us as angel investors where we're working with other government agencies, the private sector, and academia in order to advance science and technology. The vast majority of our budget is in what we call the 3X codes. 31, think cyber, 32 underwater, 33 surface warfare and weapons to include maintenance, structures, and also advanced manufacturing. 34 is more human factors related, and 35, that's why we're here today, there on the aviation side. Kind of underlying all those codes is what we call the expeditionary portfolio, and that's to ensure that we remain naval, so that links us with our friends in the Marine Corps. And so for code 35 itself, here looking at FY23 to include plus ups, they got about a $530 million budget. They're focused on naval air platforms, kinetic weapons, and directed energy. Their mission set is to really look, longer, faster, cheaper, and more lethal. I am glad to say that we now have a permanent SES in charge of that code. Dr. Dox Millsaps, who has been the acting here for the last several years, was officially named there as the head here about a week and a half ago. We have 2 primary means of really trying to bring capabilities here to the fight. We kind of joke, hey, it's S&T, do you want it in 3 years or 5 years? But we have what are called future naval capabilities that really seek to mature TRL level 4-5 to TRL level 6-7, and to develop new tech and from fundamental research with some quantifiable exit criteria to address validated warfighter requirements. It is a competitive process, both for the selection there, as well as there is a review once a year to see how they are progressing. And it requires a transition agreement here from the end user. Some past examples of some success that we have include the multifunction capabilities for mission sensors, which we deployed back in 2013, the cognitive fidelity synthetic environment for the F-18 training, which we deployed in 2017, the virtual constructive representations on live avionics displays for flight training, which we deployed in 2018, and the long range fix, find, and identify for the MQ-4C, which we deployed to Guam in 2021. Some ongoing FNCs that we have, which are related to aviation, include Lanterns, which is a landing autonomous navigation technology for enhanced recovery to Navy ships. That's a long one, which is sponsored by N96, and PEO IWS is the acquisition partner. The long endurance airborne platform decoy, sponsored by N2N6. Again, that's going to go to PEO IWS, hopefully in 2026. And Chaos, which is the conventional ammunition high density reactive material augmented ordnance system, sponsored by N98, which we hope to transition here to PMA 213 and 268 here next year. The other avenue is what we call innovative naval prototypes, whereas the FNCs, again, are 3 to 5 years. These are more looking around the 5 to 10 year. And these are more the tech push than the requirements pull. So these are things that the CNR thinks that we have to invest in now at ONR because they could be so groundbreaking that, you know, could really change the face of warfare. So some recent successes include Locust, which ran from FY16 to 22, and they actually transitioned into multiple programs of record there on the Marine Corps side. As well as Minerva, which has been ongoing since FY19 and has already transitioned portions to various Navy programs of record. Some ongoing IMPs related to aviation include Dealers, Hellcap, which is the high energy laser, Locust, which is the low cost UAV swarming tech, Super Swarm, and we have one more project that we're working on with DARPA to really leverage some of their ISRT capabilities. And with that, I'll see the remainder of my time on the floor. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to switch the dynamic of the conversation a little bit from capability development to more of sustainment of end items. So good afternoon. My name is Roy Harris. I'm the executive director of the Fleet Readiness Centers. And just from a demographic standpoint for the FRCs, for those that are not familiar, so 2 main sustainment roles within the FRCs. One of the chief ones is a maintenance, repair, and overhaul facility. We do about 500 airframe repairs, about 2,000 engine and engine module repairs, and on the order of over 100,000 component level repairs between our level 2 and level 3 activities. So pretty significant span of responsibility and a lot of volume going through our organization on a regular basis. That's fueled primarily by an artisan workforce of about 10,000 artisans that we have geographically located on the East and West Coast to execute that line of our business. So again, large breadth of volume that we put through the FRCs on an annual basis. The other major part of our business are something called the fleet support teams. So you can think of those folks as in-service logisticians and engineers that are keeping the aircraft flying, keeping the end items flying, engines flying, components working across the naval aviation spectrum. So dealing with any kind of issues that pop up on a regular basis, that team swarms those issues, looks for corrective action and gets them up and running again as quickly as possible. So about maybe 4 years ago now, we with the theme here today being speed, we really did some self-reflection across the fleet readiness centers. And what we found, maybe from a humility standpoint, is we were not as fast as we would like to be in our turnaround times and delivering end items back to the fleet. So a lot of attention has gone into attacking that part of our business. And in fact, it's two-pronged. It's attacking the speed of which we deliver our end items back out to the fleet and the cost of the repairs that we execute to get those end items back out the door. So 2 major focal points for us. And again, from a humility standpoint, we were not where we wanted to be. Pulled in a lot of industry best practices to improve our way of doing business and have targeted and on our way to executing about a 50% reduction in our turnaround times across our end items, all commodities, and about a 20% reduction in the cost to repair our end items. So significant transformations are underway across the FRCs. We're about 2 years into that journey, and a lot of significant progress has been made. I mentioned that primarily for this group in the context of partnerships, and it's a common theme I think you're hearing from all of us. One thing we've learned over the years, and in particular as we started to attack speed and cost, maybe a little bit more on the cost side, is we have capacity at the organic FRCs. So as we look to the PEO UNW portfolio, which is kind of a newer portfolio for us and more maybe on the unmanned side of the house, here's an opportunity to form new partnerships and new relationships for the sustainment of the end items coming out of this portfolio. We've got capacity, we've got some of the world's best artisans in naval aviation, and I think there's a good opportunity for us to partner in that domain and really create a win-win for both of us. We've done this a little bit of a start to date in some unique arrangements. So Steve Farmer mentioned commercial service agreements. We leverage those vehicles as well, and we really have targeted those in two specific areas. One, public-private partnerships, where we, with the capacity we have, we're starting to partner with industry on repairing end items and forming partnerships on the component side of the house. So as we start to move forward in this portfolio and as we start to look at where repairs are being executed, in some cases, if decisions have been made to go OEM to begin with, we are a entity that can help you execute those repairs through a CSA agreement and through a public-private partnership agreement with your company. So various success stories there, and it's an opportunity, I think, for all of us to collaborate and take advantage of the capacity we have. The other one is on the artisan workforce. This was a little bit of a newer business model for us, but as some of our OEM counterparts have had challenges with turnaround time and getting products out the door, we, in particular, where those problems were zeroed in on manning for shortfalls at our OEM facilities, we've had multiple success stories in implementing or arranging CSAs and sending our artisans to the OEMs to augment their workforce for a period of time until they can get back on step with their hiring process. So again, fleet focused, trying to get product out the door, partnering with industry, a little bit of a new business model, but that has been very successful in pockets of the naval aviation community and another opportunity for us all here. Another area that I think is ripe for partnership is in organic manufacturing. So in addition to all the equipment that we invested in to repair our end items, we also have a lot of state-of-the-art technology to include additive manufacturing technology to organically manufacture consumable end items. So here's another opportunity where as supplier bases are starting to dry up, we've got capability and capacity where we can partner with industry to make those consumable end items for them. And again, measured success in this area as we started to get into discussions more on the repair side, it really is starting to gravitate more to organic manufacturing and consumable end item capability and capacity. And then we're starting to do that a lot in support of our OEM partners. So another big opportunity in my view where we can partner going forward. And the last one really is in the IT and analytics world. I think that's probably universal for everybody sitting at this table. Taking advantage of the latest technology in analytics it's an imperative for all of us to be successful going forward, specifically on the sustainment side where we have continually struggled and still do. It's a sustainment modeling of everything from the very early acquisition cycle of understanding how design changes can impact the maintainability of an end item and provide more readiness on the flight line. We haven't been real successful to date in solving or cracking that nut. And again, any ideas you all have to help us move the ball down the field further, all ears on that part. Again, just an area where I think we struggle. And in this particular case, from a sustainment standpoint, pulling in all the variables that contribute to flight line readiness, modeling that into a way to where understanding how each lever that needs to be pulled will contribute to flight line readiness. Another complex modeling exercise that we've dabbled in, but have not quite solved that one either. So some good solid, I think, opportunities for us to partner with you all in those areas. My point of contact is Mr. Rich Baumhold, and he's not here today, but for any of the things that I mentioned, happy to stick around and I can forward his point of contact information to you, and we'll get you hooked up with him, and we'll see where we can collaborate going forward.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, so we're going to have an hour to have this panel conversation. And we also have, we'll have live Q&A on Teams as well. Rules of engagement will be the same as it was during the panel this morning. Okay, so I'm going to start us off with a question or two. We will take questions here from the audience. We'll also flip back and forth between the audience and Teams. If you have a specific question that's for a specific panel member, please identify that panel member. Otherwise, it's a jump ball for all. However, you don't all have to answer. Okay, if someone has already answered the same way you would, feel free to pass and we'll move things along. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, we have about an hour. Great opportunity here for the audience, both live and live and virtual, that when you're talking about the entryway into the naval aviation enterprise, in many cases, these are the 4 doorways of how you get in, especially to our labs, experimentation facilities, ranges, all that good work you saw yesterday from the simulation department, whether it's JSE, Man Flight Sim, all those, that resides through these gentlemen as far as how you can actually gain access and contribute. So let's go ahead and get started. My first question, just to get things started, is for ONR and the NOCs. So how can we better coordinate our various S&T initiatives with the outcomes of fielding capability in mind from a recovering program manager perspective? Quite often in the program management shops, we don't have the direct visibility of what is going on, whether it's in SBIR or whether it's in ONR's PUCA or being out there and developed. And this is what often creates the valley of death. So for both of you, or for 3 of you anyway, how can we better cross-coordinate what's going on in S&T so that we can bridge that valley of death?
I'm close to yeah, I think that's a great question. We always hear about the valley of death. Couple of perspectives that I'll bring to the table. It's not a money issue. I think it is a coordination issue. So first thing is, what is it that the fleet needs? What is that warfighter gap? We saw a lot of things yesterday of capabilities needed out there, but when you get to specificity, that enables a lot more clarity of what is needed to go out there. So that's the first thing. The second thing, you heard Captain Ducko talk about it this morning, I think, is we can solve technical problems in our sleep. It's really the social aspect that we need to get aligned better with. So alignment with ONR, alignment with the PMA, alignment with the fleet, alignment with OPNAV. There's a lot of social engineering that needs to take place. Unfortunately, that takes time. I think we can go through the time a lot faster, though, if we have clarity of what it is we're trying to do with specificity, because there's a lot of problems out there. And I think for us, what we're learning at the NOCs is really trying to coordinate with the PMA. One of the things, I can't tell you how many PMAs I've worked with and gone through, but if you do have a warfighter gap out there, the personalities in the PMA kind of start leveling out a little bit, because we're still going to mature technology. You know, we need to always go further, always go faster, always be precise where we're going. Now we're learning this thing called BLOS, right? We're going to need targeting. And it's not just naval aviation that's trying to find this problem. It's the Air Force, it's the Army, it's the Marine Corps. Everybody's struggling with the same thing. But I think if we have specificity, I'm a broken record here, apologize, with that, coordinating with the PMAs of here's what I'm going to do for you. Here's when I need your help, right? Here's when I need your endorsement, and get people aligned with that. I think that adds a lot of help for getting transition things out in the fleet. I'll just talk to Paul Hood, talk about the pod earlier today. So we're building the pod. Fuse is working with us on that. You know, that's been something that we were working with the fleet back in, I think it was 2018, right? And we flew the first one this past September. So it takes a long time, but there's alignment there. There's a need out there. And so that is actually going as fast as I've seen things. So good things there.
Yeah, I think our I'm just going to overgeneralize, oversimplify to make a point. So there are really good examples that are contrary to what I'm about to say, but just for the sake of the conversation, we can convince ourselves in the technology development community that any technology is relevant. I've got an idea for a new pen. Pilots use pens. Pilots fly airplanes. Airplanes drop weapons. This is a relevant technology for naval aviation. And so I think we have been. I think we've got a gift of what I call alignment these days, meaning we have been given the nav plan implementation framework. We're talking about integrated capabilities in a way that actually is driving OpNav and ASN and the Syscoms to a common sight picture on what capability really means. What do you mean by long range fires? That's a vague concept, and it's not really when you get into the details of a particular kill chain from start to finish, the specificity that Steven's talking about, the technical details matter. But if you can have a conversation at that level, you start illuminating gaps for necessary integrated warfighting capability. And so what we try to do now, really over the last couple of years, is drive our discretionary investments in technology development to directly align to those gaps. And while I think we probably have we've strived to do that forever in the technology development arena, now we have a language and a framework to hang that stuff on that kind of makes it more relevant. So I think that's an alignment gift that we have in the technology development community now that maybe we didn't have in the past.
So, sir, I think from the ONR vantage point here, we have CNR is really refocusing. You know, he's only been on board now for about 3 months, but where his head is and what he's focusing on doing is really trying to empower the program managers to ensure that they have what they need to feel like they can be successful. And I think from the ONR vantage point, that means that we can have the real conversations that, you know, we have to have in terms of the specificity there, especially on the requirement side of things. What really helps us is knowing what the problem is. I am by far not the smartest guy in ONR by any stretch of the imagination. We have really smart folks over there who they just want to know what the problem is, right? And so any help they can have in ensuring they understand where folks need help, then we can, you know, like certainly from there, throw them on that job. At the same time, we within ONR have to do a better job of really trying to communicate what we have done, which can be a building block for a future program. And that's something that, you know, CNR is looking into as well.
Okay, thank you. Let me go ahead and open it up to the audience to see where we can start with questions in the audience and or teams. So we'll start here in the audience in the room. Okay, in the back, go ahead. Okay, I think that's an ONR question. The question was, with the energy behind AUKUS, is there interest in an ONR Global in Australia?
So there are, right now, I mean, we are definitely looking at all aspects of how we can contribute here to AUKUS, whether that is through an ONR Global office or whether that is through a tech bridge. That is right now all being discussed. I just don't have anything more there substantial to add to that, other than, yes, this is an idea that is being bandied about. And, you know, we are very hopeful, but there's a far higher power than us that's going to make that final decision.
Okay. I think there was a question over on this side of the room that I didn't catch. Dan, yes. So I'll repeat the question real quick for the virtual audience, which was for the NOCs. How are they preparing for some of the upcoming programs that are going to expand into hypersonics and artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so I'll let you talk hypersonics at some point if you want to from a weapons perspective. Look, that's a good question. And the answer is kind of, it depends. The details matter, right? So things like the unmanned in-flight refueling program that we're supporting now, we're going to have really an unprecedented level of unmanned activity happening at our airfield here, a few miles from here, that we haven't really had to experience before. So I mean, that's just blocking and tackling, right? I mean, we fly unmanned systems around here all the time, but not to the level that we need to deliver outcomes by the timeline that for that particular program in Admiral Tedford's portfolio. So that's the easy stuff that we're still trying to wrap our brain around, right? When you start talking about validating artificial intelligence algorithm sets and saying, is it ready to go? We have folks working that. Charles Ray is doing a lot of, he's our NOC AD artificial intelligence lead. I think he's going to be here tomorrow as part of the conversation, if I'm not mistaken. We've got a unmanned and autonomous tech development group. Chad Miller is leading that group. And so my short answer to your question is, our top scientists back at the plant are working that. Which isn't very gratifying coming from me. But if you go one or two layers down in the organization, there are a lot of people not a lot of people, there are focused people, because there aren't a lot that understand a lot of that kind of work. There are focused people getting after those very specific things. And so if you're here tomorrow and able to challenge Charles, for example, Charles Ray on autonomy, I would encourage you to do that, and you'd get probably a little bit more gratifying answer than the arm waving I just gave you, Dan.
I'm going to talk two different aspects for you. One is the technology for the weapon system itself, hypersonics, propulsion set aspects and stuff. July 2019 had this thing called an earthquake happen at China Lake. A couple of them, 7-point-somethings, really devastated some of our infrastructure. That was the bad thing. The great thing is we were able to secure funding to rebuild that. So with that in mind, I realize I'm being streamed over Teams and stuff, but we were supposed to rebuild in kind. So maybe our in kind was preparing for hypersonics testing capabilities from a propulsion perspective and stuff. From a test perspective, I will tell you, we continue to look out in the future and figure out how we're going to do this. We just recently conducted a live fire with one of Captain Ducko's ARGM-ERs, launching it from Knitter, which is the Nevada Test Training Range, into our China Lake North Range. So I think it was first of its kind for us of launching over public land, a populated area. And so how do you do that securely? How do you do that safely? How do you ensure the integrity of the data? So those are things we conducted successfully with the eye for the future from a hypersonic perspective. We talked about that 36,000 square miles on our Pacific Point McGee Sea Range. So we're looking to partner with other folks. TRMC is one of the companies, UpNav N94. We're looking to work with PMAs on the unmanned perspective. One for how do you clear a sea range properly? How do you put payloads in maybe a Reaper or a pod that is a telemeter, repeater, or recorder as well, to ensure we're collecting the right data and we have the right information in case we have to use the flight termination system as well. So those are things we are posturing for. We're making our own internal investments, but we're looking to partner with other folks as to technology available for us to work with and figure out how do we implement in the ranges for a safe conducting flight, for ensuring the data is going to be recorded properly. So those are some of the things we're looking at doing.
Hey, just one other comment that popped in my head while Stephen was talking. So just from the standpoint of the how, maybe not so much details on the technology that you mentioned, Dan, but the language of naval aviation right now is centered around, things like problem-solving canvases and driver trees, and they're essentially communication artifacts that say, here's the outcome we're going for, here are the things that contribute to that outcome, and here's the status of those things relative to whether they're on track, whether they are resourced, whether they're executable, and you can measure this, that you can characterize them red, yellow, green. And so as we partner, as we have a much tighter partnership with our program offices as a supporting command to the supported commander that is a program manager or a capability lead, those things that you're asking about, how are you going to test artificial intelligence for air wing of the future? That's a good question. If it will show up in this context of a driver tree mentality of here, what outcome are we trying to achieve, and all the enablers that make that outcome successful. So it's forcing us to acknowledge probably a little bit in advance of when maybe we would have acknowledged it in the past, and we would show up late to need with capability. So there is opportunity to get ahead of some of these difficult and challenging technical capabilities because of the fact that we're acknowledging where we might be short, we're acknowledging where we're good, and folks are actually leadership is definitely engaged in helping solve the challenges. Over.
So even though FRC guy, not NOC guy, but I do have some thoughts on that question. And look, this is pretty universal to I think why we're all here today. Look, the shift in our way of thinking within naval aviation is now, and this is going to sound like a very obvious one, but it's outcome focused. So any capability that we're talking about here today, the outcome that we're focused on is delivering that capability within the timelines that the fleet needs it, which is a little shift from how we may have done it in the past. And quite frankly, we may not have had the best track record of meeting that date. So in order to get a different outcome, it's going to require different thinking and out of the box thinking and more partnerships with you all on ideas that you have in order to enable those outcomes. And that is true, whether it's capability development, whether it's sustainment. It's the point that I'm trying to press in foot stomp is it's outcome focused, and we got to team together in order to achieve those outcomes. That is it's a shift in how we've done business in the past, and a real need for us to figure out better ways to take advantage of each other's capabilities to deliver the outcomes that Admiral Teffer needs. So that is I think just a context, maybe a contextual point for all of us, but an important one as we continue the dialogue.
Okay. Sir. So the question is in regards to supportive chemicals in the energetic process, and how to, is there an appetite within organic, although the question was directed specifically to NOC-WD, but within our organic energetics to increase production of some of the supportive chemicals that go into our energetics as opposed to being done offshore.
Yeah, a couple of things. First, Steve, I think you owe a beer for bringing up problem-solving canvas and driver tree in this forum. So just to
say it at least once.
okay, well, your boss isn't here, so it costs you a beer. Two is I support the governor of the state of California. I don't go against him. To answer your question, I'd like to point out Mr. Scott Fuller. Scott Fuller, if you'd raise your hand, reach out to him. He's our director of energetics. To answer your questions, absolutely, right? We're still looking to figure out how do we do things, how we do it better. Again, naval aviation, in my opinion, really got its work cut out for it as opposed to the threat. From a surface to air perspective, the threat, all they have to do is get a bigger semi, right? And it's pretty easy. They do it. From a air platform perspective, they don't have the flight clearance, they don't have the safety aspects and the restrictions they have. So we are always fitting in this box of it's got to fit on the launcher, it's got to be less than this weight, we got to be able to bring it back. So how do we maximize that tube of goop to have the furthest distance out there? And we're stuffing it full, right? We're trying to figure out how we continue to have different solid rocket motors in there. Now we got to look at materials, we got to look at propellants, we got to look at chemicals. And so we are wide open with that. I would highly encourage you to talk to Scott. He'd be happy to talk to you. So thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, I will be right back. I'm going to take a question from Teams and then I'll come right back. The question is, we have seen creating competition in production as a means to increase inventory. This can be done by leader-follower design into production and via the Navy having rights to the TDP to compete production. Is a change in the acquisition approach being considered to reduce cost and increase production output?
Sounds like a PEO.
I was going to say that might be for me. Yeah, we'll see. You want me to take that one? So the answer is yes to all the above. And fortunately, I've been looking at this question while they were talking, so I had a little pre-warning. The answer is yes. We are trying to continuously expand our production capacity by looking for those second sources of supply. Specifically for energetics, we are teaming with Indian Head. We're teaming with China Lake. We are working on the TDPs. Some of these TDPs, especially for things like warheads and solid rocket motors, those TDPs have been around for a really long time, and they have to be refreshed before we can actually implement a new production line source of supply. For something like Halo, which is in the future and coming, we have every intention to completely compete production of that weapon, regardless of who wins the competition. Okay, we're trying to break glass to not necessarily be beholden to a single prime just because they won milestone B. All right. Now, whether that's competed at an all-up round level or competed at a subcomponent level, the intent is to compete. And it's not just to compete for competition's sake and to lower price, but also to have expanded capacity when we need it, which is right now. So we are looking at those opportunities within our acquisition strategies. You will see those in RFPs coming out in the future on how we can greater expand competition, especially within weapons.
Yeah, I'll just make one plug again. We have limited production and full rate production, multiple award contracts that are available for us to partner with industry to compete a technical data package for production out in industry. And so typically that would flow into kind of mid-tier, maybe even small business. But those are, we're probably not going to produce Halo in that context, but there are things that we can do in partnering with industry and with our existing contract vehicles to get tech data packages into your hands for production, limited and full rate. Rick Tarr, Technology Transition Office. Raise your hand.
Okay, so the question is, are we looking at any type of technology agreements to continue to expand and accelerate technology development? If I have the right question.
Without understanding the details of the specific vehicle you're describing, I think the answer is yes. I mean, there's so much space, so much opportunity space to partner with academia, industry, and government for technology development, that even if that's not the right one, or it is the right one, yeah, the answer is yes. I think Stephen mentioned sometimes in spite of ourselves, we actually produce some output, right? Because the system is so constraining. It feels that way sometimes, especially in the context of the acquisition ecosystem, the bureaucracy around it. But this space, warfare centers, technology development, partnerships, there's a freedom there that allows us to do things that maybe you can't do when you fold into a classic, ACAT-1 acquisition program. So I would direct you to talk to Rick. I'm a broken record if you haven't already. If it's a vehicle we're not taking advantage of that's out there that we should be, I'm very interested. Look, no will never be the first word out of my mouth. So if it's something we should be considering, absolutely.
Sir. So the question is for weapons, sustainment, and logistics. What role is FRC and ONR playing?
Yeah, so I'll take the first crack from an FRC standpoint, and then I'll pass it over to my ONR counterpart. But look, there's without a doubt, I think history will show that we do not do the best planning upfront to sustain our end items going in, and there's a myriad of problems there. In some cases, it's a byproduct of an acquisition strategy. In other cases, it's costs that were put forward for logistical support that get reduced or taken away. I mean, there's a lot of I'll say systemic issues that we have to attack. From an FRC standpoint, there's really, I'll say, two main things that we're trying to do to turn that phenomenon around. One is in terms of organic repair, and from my standpoint, since I've been involved in the FRCs, it became painfully obvious that we were not as much a part of the acquisition planning process as we needed to be, and that led to sustainment relationships that may have not been in the best interest of program managers down the road. So one important change to that for me is getting more involved up front of the acquisition process and the planning process to better plan for how we're going to sustain those end items going forward. And quite frankly, from an organic standpoint, it's to better articulate what capabilities we have in place to help the program managers feel the capabilities they need within the timelines that they have. So that's one major change. The other one really gets into a lot of the, it's also in the upfront planning, but more on the logistics side. And it's very similar in a way. I mean, it's the whole way we plan in the beginning of a program, it's all predicated on the reliability of our systems. And once that reliability does not come to fruition, it wreaks havoc, absolute havoc on our sustainment. So better understanding what reliability we're going to have once that end item is fielded, maybe being a little bit more predictive than we have been in the past is important. Or I'm going to flip that around a little bit. Can we collaboratively figure out a way to incentivize reliability better upfront during the development of an end item so that we can get the reliability or better reliability than what we had planned from that end item? And that's there's a lot of opportunity there and a lot of work to be done, but that's going to be a joint effort between us and industry on how to better solve that problem. And again, I think it's probably twofold. It's better understanding what we're going to get, as well as maybe creating incentives to get what we need.
Thank you. And yes, sir, very good question. I think from the ONR vantage point, this is something that we're taking very seriously. In fact, we've hosted Vice Admiral Williamson twice in the last year alone here. So, he can sit down, kind of walk through with us what are some of the things that we're looking at from both the very near term as well as the long-term investments that we can make here in order to ensure that we have a reliable sustainment process. This is really housed under what we call ONR Code 33, and we have one of our top program managers, Ms. Jen Wolk, looking into this from both a platform standpoint and a additive manufacturing standpoint. We're also doing some experimentation. I think there's an RFI on the street right now for some of the work that we're doing with Pack Fleet in terms of, I believe, contested logistics. And so, this is something that we are putting a lot of resources into at this time.
Okay, keep the conversation going. So for the NOx, we had a great conversation yesterday and some questions from the audience regarding test and evaluation and either the ability to and or the challenges of getting through T&E quickly. Where have you seen success in navigating rapid test and evaluation, and what should industry be focused on to be successful in test?
Yeah, that's probably a 30-minute conversation. I would love to incentivize the last flight of a test program, not the first flight. That's the most important one. It means we're done. It means the system gets fielded. And so that's by a specific date. And so when we talk about test and evaluation, T&E is underlying the entire development process. It shouldn't be separated from development. When you start a program, it's full of uncertainty. The more you learn each and every day about components of a system, subsystem development, lab tests, you are learning. And each day you learn, it should be informing what you're going to do for verifying a capability moving forward. I don't think we tend to close that loop frequently enough as systems are being developed, and what's the consequence of what we learned on what we have to do in a test program to get to the end. So I think, do we have good examples of that? Yeah, I think there have been a lot of programs that have tried, for example, to measure system maturity, which is the T&E community's Achilles heel. right? Hey, we need you to design a test program that fits in this cost and schedule box. And the way that we fit it in there is we make some assumptions about what that system is going to look like, how mature it's going to be, how refined it's going to be, so that we get into test. If we're lucky, the test program has a little bit of room for discovery, but not much. And so hardware makes you humble. And when you start evaluating hardware and software, it's not exactly as mature because we're trying to drive leading edge technology into these weapon systems. You discover things, you learn things, you have to redesign certain things. And so system maturity, delivering capability that's ready to be tested is the easy way for a tester to say, if you just give me what you told me you were going to give me the day you said you were going to give it to me, I can give you a test program that's going to fit within the box. So folks have tried to measure and track test maturity, whether it's software maturity, hardware maturity, and it's a hard thing to measure. But I always like to say, get to the last flight, the last event that will determine when the system is ready to go to the fleet, to oversimplify it. And then you can start driving some responsibility into the test community. If I have one more flight to do, just to oversimplify, couldn't I have just released this to the fleet the day before? Why do I have to fly that last flight? What's special about that one? What am I going to learn? Haven't I learned enough? Right, so that's pressurizing the test community. So it's a difficult. We're in the technology business. All of you likely, and certainly the programs that we support as warfare centers. If we were sending out to the fleet stuff that was demonstrated, designed, and working 10 years ago, and now we're ready to finally, test this thing, it'd be easy. So I don't have a really super crisp answer on that, other than to say the partnership with test has to start at the very beginning, just like Roy talked about, from a sustainment and reliability and readiness perspective. And I think when those elements get pulled left, and those equities are, have a voice at the table all the way through the design process, those are the programs that we've seen have the most success through Teenie.
I'll talk a little bit about, Steve brought up alignment. I would tell you a lot of alignment, but where it starts paying off is when you're coherent in your alignment, everybody's working together and we're cohesive about it. So that's one aspect. And part of that aspect we're seeing is really the VXs is starting to work together a lot closer. VX23, VX31, VX9, the whole DTOT aspect, that is continues to evolve and continues to be a lot faster in that process. One of the initiatives that the NOCs have taken up recently that's being led by Admiral Hash is end-to-end testing, E to E. So he's pulling together the test communities along with the wings of how are we going to get there faster? How are we going to test faster? I think one of the big enablers for that is this buzzword digital engineering. Right? How do we do that? How do we get these digital models? How do we start ensuring that those are the proper models being done properly, that we have confidence in them, and it produces the right results in the time we need it? I heard recently, I'd like to dig into it more, don't know much about it, but the F1 community, how many thousands of different iterations of their cars they go through, and they don't drive them, but they model them and they have confidence in to understand really what is the best outcome for them. We need to get on board with that. We are slow to need for that. And that's where I think this whole digital engineering aspect really needs to come up to speed. And so how are we going to do that? Well, it takes computer power. Again, we're in a bureaucratic system that's going to take IT, security, but it takes the manpower, and the man woman resource is in the smarts and how to be innovative about doing that. And we need to start looking for how do we start accepting more risk to get capability out there as well.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Rhoda.
I was waiting for Rodo.
Able to do that just high-end models up to be able to trust that work.
So the question is about capabilities-based test and evaluation that we had a path, and I would say we're still on that path. However, it is maybe not in the forefront. What can we be doing to get back to that, and how can we actually make that come to light?
Yeah, so good question, Rhoda. Thanks for your challenge. One of the inhibitors of capabilities-based T&E is our acquisition process, which develops systems and funds systems that are individual systems and really aren't capabilities per se. They're not warfighting capabilities in and of themselves. It's a component of a air warfare or EW or whatever. And so capabilities-based T&E is an effort to try to stitch together the relevant elements of all these different systems that are being developed so that when they're fielded, we have an actual capability delivered to the fleet that's beyond just one airplane flying by itself. And so there are some things happening across the organization. There's a organization inside of NavAir called PMA 298. It's trying to stitch together these individual systems into warfighting capability in some particular warfare areas, not all of them. So one of the things that's happening in that program office from a T&E perspective is that capability view, looking across, pick a mission thread, air warfare, and saying what systems currently or in development contribute to air warfare, how are they being tested, where are the gaps in the verification of these individual capabilities so that we can assess the entire mission threat, right? And so there's a product associated from that program office. So it's a traditional product. It's a test plan. It's an assessment report. Those are sort of traditional test products, but it's got non-traditional content in it. Right, it's not just about a system, it's the whole thing. So, hey, that element of that warfare area, that kill chain, we assess it as white. What does that mean? White means nobody's looking at it. Oops. How are we going to verify end-to-end capability? Well, we're going to have to do something about that. We've just exposed a gap. So in much the same way that I was describing this gift of capability clarity from senior Navy. Hey, Air Wing 2028, it means something very specific. It means F-18s and F-35s and these specific weapons. Air Wing of the future is a little bit farther out, but it's very specific in the systems that we're talking about and the warfare area, warfare domains we're talking about. That allows us to do exactly what I just said. It's like, okay, if you want to describe how Air Wing 2028 is going to execute certain mission threats, we can have that conversation, but it shouldn't be done within individual programs. It's got to go up a level. So I think I would say CBT&E, it's maturing. And so we've got some actual structure around it now. We also run into barriers relative to models is what's good enough. I think did we talk about the joint simulation environment? Okay, great. That's a good example. For that venue to be considered acceptable for F-35 operational test, the level of fidelity that we held that capability to and the level of scrutiny that it got to be considered thumbs up and ready to run for score on F-35 operational test, I would argue was unprecedented. It was, I mean, there was no element of that model that could be considered acceptable without validating it against a actual real hardware um, standard. And so that drives a lot of things. It slows you down in upgrading that capability. That JSE was working a old software load, ancient. And then what the beauty, the ecosystem becomes pretty graceful when all of a sudden not all of a sudden, over time, that capability, the value of it was much more in the fleet training domain. It had gotten so good, not perfect from an operational test perspective, so they could make a full rate production decision on a system that's got 1,000 airplanes out there already. But it became the venue for high-end proficiency training for the Navy and the Air Force F-35 pilots. We don't even, I mean, it's still a test venue, but its value as a training venue, right? So now we're nitpicking the model to verify operational test, to check off operational test points. Yeah, we'll do that. And at night, Top Gun is in here training before they deploy, before the pilots deploy. So it's a long-winded way, I think, of saying we've got to maybe reset the balance on expectations for models, on the pedigree. You don't want to have a bad model giving you false confidence. But at the same time, there is a limit to maybe how perfect it's got to be.
Okay, question over here in the corner. Question is, what's the percentage of UNW test programs that are conducted LVC today, and where do we see it tomorrow? I think I caught the right question. I'm gonna get that one to you.
Okay. I don't know what the number is, sir, but I'll tell you what we are seeing from the weapons side is it's probably, I would say, number doesn't matter. 80% is model simulation LVC perspective. You just cannot afford to shoot the Gucci weapon, multiple times to check the whole envelope. My experience, I kind of grew up in AIM-9X. I think we did a total of maybe 20 firings, but millions of simulation runs to verify the performance. So we are really knocking the door down. Or to Roto's point, I think you're seeing it in the widget, in the system, individual system standpoint, of really taken off and being used heavily. Now, how do you expand that from the system of systems perspective, from the mission perspective? That's where we're growing. I'll tell you, at NOC WD, we just redeveloped a new strategic plan, and we got 4 pillar areas, and one's called advanced LVC, right? How do we enable and understand how well do we do in our mission set? It's not how well do we do a test point, but how well do we accomplish a mission perspective? And also from the standpoint, from a threat perspective, we can't afford to do everything out in open air. So we need to figure out how do we do these digital ranges? How do we collect the data such that our adversaries aren't getting wind of that and collecting that data and understanding what our true capabilities are? So it's a high percentage. We continue to lean into that. We know we have to go out there every once in a while and push a button and see something go whoosh and go boom at the end, hopefully. But it's really not that much anymore.
Okay, this side of the room, Wade, go ahead. So the question is with respect to kill change emission threads and access to those, not just at the leadership level, but to the working level, and then subsequently access to those same mission threads and kill threads to industry.
I don't have a satisfied answer for you. There's reform going on in SAP reform, I think it's called, right? So there's an acknowledgement, I think, from where I sit, which is different, from where maybe Admiral Tedford sits relative to this topic. I'd be interested in his thoughts. But yeah, if we're going to do the things that we say we're going to do, and at some point, a program that might have very specific access controls and various security levels, and the crown jewel technology needs to be protected, and we don't want anybody knowing about it. And yet, it's a component piece of a kill web. And for us to effectively evaluate the whole web or the whole mission thread, somebody's got to know that there's a super secret ray gun out there that's part of it, right? And so I think I'll just give you one example of how things have evolved. Literally, I mean, I got this job in NOC AD 2 years ago, and since I rolled into this job and today, we now at the NAVAIR leadership level have something called the Capability Executive Steering Board, which is really the senior leadership of the command of NAVAIR, the warfare centers, FRC, PEOs, headquarters, and we have informed conversations. That didn't happen a year ago. And so does that help proliferate knowledge and awareness through our own organization? No, it's still hard work. It's still blocking and tackling with getting folks access. The same thing is 100% true probably with industry. So I can't speak to that side of it. But yeah, we acknowledge absolutely the need for people to be aware of the things they need to be aware of to do their jobs. And not everybody needs to know everything all the time.
I'd like to add to that because there is a progression of information that is being broadcast out there, and that's one of the things that back to Steve's chart, that first house chart, and back to Roy's point about outcome focused. You can't be outcome focused if you don't know what you're going after. So those are being teed up for us, and the challenge is trying to get that information out to the workforce at the right security classification. We're slowly coming around to that. We use that information to try to tee up our nice portfolios every year. These are the challenges we got. So we work with the right PMA and try to get the information out. How can we articulate this to the broader workforce at the right security levels such that we protect what's being out there, but we can also give the challenge to the workforce. So we are attempting to do that better throughout the NOCs. I will say that that also was kind of done yesterday with Pete Crosby from a threat perspective. The last industry day from a NAVAIR perspective was also the same thing of trying to say, these are some of the challenges we got. Our challenge is to be able to articulate that in a clarity manner such that, again, from a security standpoint. And I think we continue to ask and challenge ourselves, how are we doing that? Because we need to move faster. So it is coming along more than I've seen in my years.
So I believe you had a question as well. Question is for products being delivered to the service, are we also interested and or driving towards digital twins and or digital models of those products?
Yeah, answer is absolutely we are. I know NAVC is working with the one of their flagships was Aegis Digital Twin, changing software, conducting a test firing, seeing something wrong on the digital side that they didn't see in the firing because it was kind of hidden, and they were able to change software right away and re-verify that. We are doing that on the NavAir side. I know we're WD is working, our Point Magoo Advanced Electronic Attack IPT is working with NGJ on creating digital twins for that. So we are endorsing that, jumping on board with that. Again, it's that infrastructure that is really the struggle for us. It's the standards and ICDs of how do we now connect that to the broader ecosystem, because that's not defined. If you were here yesterday, hearing Ms. Corzine talk about that space layer is part of that problem, but it's all the whole architecture. The digital ecosystem is not well defined because it's always the eaches that have defined that. So how do we get that information out? Kind of going back to the TDP aspect for me, it's okay. How do we connect to your system, and how do we get that system connected to the broader mission aspect of that? But it is absolutely being embraced.
Maybe just to add a little bit from a more holistic capability sustainment angle. Look, operating in a digital environment is the way of the future. It's where we're starting to go with all of our programs. What I struggle with, just to lay it out there, is what do we want to develop organically from a digital ecosystem? Do we want to leverage industry? Do we want to develop our own? How do we make them interoperable? This is another very big partnership opportunity between us and industry on how to go forward with that concept. Because I'll speak for myself. I don't want to recreate the wheel. And if there is a digital ecosystem that we can leverage within naval aviation that works and has all the right security protocols and can be used across the enterprise, great, let's do it. Because I think that's a better path forward potentially than developing our own organic solution. So again, just another opportunity as we start to operate in a digital environment, which I think we've all seen the benefits of in the acquisition process.
I'm going to add real quick from the PEO's perspective that model-based systems engineering is absolutely where we're going. Okay. Without a doubt. You heard today and yesterday, you heard Captain Gensley from PMA 201 talk about the modularity of weapons and the ability to update, integrate, change sensors, change all those pieces. But instead of just doing the system, the modeling at the total system level, are we doing the modeling at the subcomponent level? So you have the interchangeability without having to redo the entire thing. And does that allow us to go fast, both in our capability development and our learning? So if I've got 3/4 of the model that's already validated and accredited and it's aligned with the product and I'm only changing the sensor, and you can give me the modeling for a new sensor, can that help me get to the test program faster? Absolutely. So yes, we're absolutely looking into the digital twins, but it's not just a digital twin of Aegis or a digital twin of the P8. It's got to be below that so that we actually have the interchangeability to grow with technology and to grow with the threat and at that right pace. Okay. I have one question here online that I'll throw out in the 3 minutes we have remaining. It's specific to the warfare centers. Are the warfare centers open to hosting an industry day style event that centers around their ongoing technology development endeavors, such as NICE projects, allowing industry to identify potential areas of alignment or collaboration to expedite progress?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Very open to that. Call Rick Tarr in the technology. Actually, I'd be happy to engage in a little bit more in that conversation. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. So reach out to me. We can get the right people in the room to figure out how to do it. I mentioned, about almost 90% of our contracting is sort of augmentation of the workforce that we have. 10% of our contracting is technology and capability delivery focus. I want to tweak those percentages. And if that's a mechanism for awareness, sharing, collaboration, partnership, then the answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think NOC WD is holding a similar event I want to say the dates are November 14th, 15th. I don't believe we're going to dig into warfighting gaps and capabilities as much as we've had the last two forums, but that's an avenue. The other thing I think that's a great idea, and I appreciate the question online to try to, we need to figure out how we're working together on this, and we can't figure out how we're working together if we don't know what each side is doing. So first, next week, I guess it is, we are actually providing, from a government perspective, I believe, I'm speaking a little bit out of ignorance, which is normal for me. Because I know we have ONR, we have AD and some other government agencies. We kind of do a all week FY23. These are the nice projects we worked on, and but we need to figure out how do we communicate that out to the industry. And so I think that's a great idea. We also need to be concerned about the public release. That's such a pain to go through, but it's a necessary pain, or else we're not getting information out there for you guys to understand what you're doing. So thank you very much for that question. That was great.
Okay, we are just about out of time, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. I do want to take an opportunity to thank the panel members for taking time out of their busy schedules to be here to join us today. They're going to be around hopefully for a little bit longer. We also have a break coming up for 20 minutes. Is that right, Brad? So you have an opportunity to continue the Q&A with them for at least a little bit. Remember, these are the gentlemen that have that access door to labs, to facilities, to ranges, to runways, all kinds of things. You also have, don't forget ONR as well. They have opportunities, as well as the FRC has a lot of organic capability in a lot of different areas. It's not just about bending metal and making airplanes and fixing engines. The FRCs have a lot of capabilities throughout the world that we can bring to bear in a time of need. So I would highly encourage that everybody take an opportunity to continue to engage with these gentlemen and reach into their offices and into their networks to help you guys get established. And lastly, again, I want to thank them, but I do want to make one closing comment that yes, Mr. Critchie, thank you so much for the tie. However, I think Steve Farmer's got you beat with the patriotic socks. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. 20-minute break. Thank you. Is that right, 20?
Good afternoon. I'm still Brad Van Horn, part of the PEO UNW Advanced Technology team. I'm going to cover very quickly in about the next 10 minutes our white paper submission plan. For those of you who participated in the virtual industry day that we had in 2020 or previous industry days we had in person prior to that, this is very similar to what we did before. It's somewhat informal. Slide, please. The first thing to know that this is not a RFP. And so this is not, we're not asking for you to respond to an RFP. There is a BAA out that I think it's about 90 pages in length that Navier NOC put out in about 3 weeks ago, about a month ago, I think. We do encourage you to take a look at that because it's very broad, very sweeping, lots of things that they're asking for you to weigh in on. So it's not one or the other, but we encourage you to take a look at that. For us, what we're looking for is real simple. We're looking for something that we've talked about over the last couple days or tomorrow that fits in to the UNW portfolio or something that will improve the portfolio. That's primarily what we're looking for. However, if you send us something that doesn't really fit here, we will make every effort we can to forward it to those that might do it. But please don't send us something that you know doesn't pertain and should go somewhere else. We encourage you to contact those organizations and reach out to them. Rick Tarr, who is probably in the other room right now, I've known him for a number of years. We certainly will reach out to him and pass things along to him. We also provide these to other PEOs and other PMAs outside of PEO UNW whenever we can. I'm not going to read everything on the slide, but understand how your solution fits in to these kind of things. I've already had several of you have come up to me and told me about ideas that you have. And again, this is your entry point into the advanced technology team, which is your best entry point into PEO UNW and all the PMAs. Consider partnering with others. Determine how your system, your idea impacts a program of record. It certainly helps us if you say, hey, here's my idea, and I think it really belongs in PMA 263. I really think it belongs in 280, or I've got a better widget for the Tomahawk missile or whatever. That helps us out because we're immediately going to involve that PMA in the discussions. Again, it's going to be very short and sweet, but substantiate your position with data if you have it. Again, it applies slide. It applies only to UNW. However, again, we will make every effort to involve other folks that we think may want to see your idea. Okay, how do you submit a white paper to PEO UNW? Unclassified only. If you can't submit something to us unclassified, then contact us and we'll make arrangements to have you send something in that's classified. But if you can do it, summarize what you can in an unclassified white paper. The email that you send it to is the same email that you probably received numerous emails from, the PEO_industry_.fct@navy.mil. I control that email account. Comes to me. Okay. The reason why I don't want you to send it to me is it will get buried in dozens and dozens of other emails that I get on a daily basis. So if you send it to this, I immediately segregate it into a white paper submission. Okay. We would like your submissions, if at all possible, by 15 November. Okay. So that gives you a little over 6 weeks. Again, it's not an RFP response. You don't need something really elaborate. We'll take whatever you got in basically a total of 3 pages, and I'm going to go through that in just a second. A cover page, a quad chart, and a white paper description of the topic, okay? And not in 6-point font. So the topics, again, should pertain to something that you heard yesterday, today, or tomorrow. The deadlines and things like that. So we're a small team. We need a little bit of time to look through these things, contact the other PMAs that might have an interest in this, get them on board and have them vet these as well. So we will go through them again, 15 November, and then we will let you know by 1 March, no later than 1 March, if you've been selected to give us more information. And then we will start having these white paper presentations in March. We can do it a couple different ways. If it's going to be unclassified, we may do it via Teams. If you're going to be in the area or you can travel or whatever, then we may do it in person. We have kind of our own rules about depending on how many PMAs might be involved. If all the UAS PMAs express an interest, then we'll probably schedule something in person and our team will be there. If only one PMA is interested, then we will likely have you deal directly with that PMA to schedule an opportunity with them, right? We don't want to be a roadblock with our schedule to getting you into seeing PMAs that really have an interest. Your presentations, barring a need to do otherwise, would be about 30 minutes, unclassified, Teams to start. Again, if we need an in-person presentation, we will. We want to respect everybody's time and your travel dollars as well. If you're not selected to come brief us, it doesn't matter, doesn't mean that that we don't like your proposal or it doesn't have merit or whatever. It may not fit into our portfolio or the time frame or anything else. But again, we will try and pass it along to others. Next slide. And one more. I'm sorry, whoop. Okay. It's the, wow, everybody's taking pictures of the screen. I will send this brief. We're not putting out any other briefs, but I will send this information to anyone who registered for Industry Day. It's the same Industry Day account that you've received numerous emails from me. Okay, same one. And now that when Industry Day ends, I won't have a couple hundred emails coming to that account anymore. They're all going to be starting to focus on white papers. Okay, so that's why we want to use that account. Everybody good with that? Everybody good there? Yes. And again, you should have that as a registered attendee. You should have received multiple emails from me. Okay, cover page. Just include this information so we know how to reach you. And I'm giving everybody here locally a chance to take a picture of the screen. This tells us something about your organization. Okay, just basic things, DUNS number, cage code, your NACES code if you have it. Don't delay getting that to us if you can put your hands on some of that stuff. Next slide. Okay, this is our standard format for quad. This one for sharks with laser beams, as you see, which we're still interested in, by the way. Considering some of the things we talked about yesterday, this is potentially getting more and more important. So we are interested in it. Please put it in this format, okay? We have determined over reviewing hundreds and hundreds of white paper submissions that a one-page summary, which is going to be on the next page, and a quad is the quickest way for us to go through these and determine, okay, is this something that we think we want to hear more about? Okay, and again, one of the first things we do is forward this out to any of the other PMAs that we think may have an interest. Okay, next slide. Okay, you got a little bit more leeway on this page. It's really at your discretion, but again, please 12-point font, not 6-point to put as much as you can on one page. I'm not going to read through all the things there, but it's basically give us your best shot. Tell us why we need to hear about this, why we want to hear more, how it's going to fit in the portfolio. Okay, and again, if you will in your first page, let us know where you think this resides. Okay, so with that said, again, it's a pretty informal process. You're just sending it to us. Let us take a look at it. Let us vet it. And any questions on that process? Anybody have any questions? Okay, great. Okay, with that said, we're gonna go through all of our folks that are here focused on small business. And when they're done speaking, they're going to go back into the open air lab, and they've set up tables. I saw a lot of people there at lunchtime taking advantage of having those folks there. So please give them your attention. They're going to be on a 5-minute clock. So they're really going to tell you, hey, here's who we are. Here's how we can help you. Here's how you can contact us, right? So I expect a lot of you will be taking pictures of the point of contact screen when they do that as well. But a lot of them are already set up out there, and you can get some of the literature and things like that. Okay, great. Thanks.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony Archer, and I am the NAVAIR SBIR STTR technical lead. Unfortunately, our program manager, Ms. Christy DePriest, couldn't be here today, so the privilege of addressing you has fallen to me. I could speak about this program, these two programs, SBIR and STTR, for hours, and on occasions I have. However, I really only have, I think I have 15 minutes, okay, I have 15 minutes, not 5. So I really have 2 objectives. So my first objective is, if you don't know anything about the program or your knowledge of the program is limited, then I'm hoping to at least impart enough knowledge in this 15 minutes to motivate you to go out and find more, and if you fit the bill, then to participate. My second objective is, maybe you do know about the program. Maybe you have submitted a proposal in the past. Maybe you even have a Phase 1 award with the Navy or another component or agency. And so what I want to do is inform you about some of the things that we do here at NAVAIR that may be different than are done at other places. So if I could have the next slide, please. Okay, so the NAVAIR SBIR STTR program. So SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research, was formed by Congress in 1982, and the Small Business Transition Technology Transfer Program was formed by Congress 10 years later in 1992. The 2 programs are basically almost identical. There's really 2 major differences to the programs. So for SBIR, so for a small company who wants to propose and work with the government under the SBIR program, they may or may not, at their discretion, have a subcontractor. Okay. For STTR, a small business who wants to propose and work with the government, they must have a subcontractor, and that subcontractor has to be a research institute. So the research institute typically is a university, but it can be a nonprofit, or it can be one of our federally funded research development centers, FFRDCs. Okay, both of the programs are very highly competitive, and what I mean by that is, of the 11 agencies that participate in the program, some give grants, the DoD gives awards, and those awards are competitively given. For us here at NAVAIR, we get about 16 proposals for every topic we put out in a BAA. The good news is, for the small businesses, is that we typically make 3 awards per topic. And then it's a 3-phase, both programs are a 3-phase award system, unimaginably called Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3. So next slide, please. Okay, what's the purpose of the program? So the programs are a small business set aside. And so really the purpose is to stimulate technical innovation, to get small businesses a part of those research and development dollars so that we just don't have 10, 12, 14, whatever it is, big OEMs or primes getting all the research dollars, and to grow the defense industrial base. Another purpose of the program is to help underserved communities and underserved areas of the country for small business. And lastly, to commercialize innovation. So it's likely that something that's a good idea for the government is also a good idea for the private sector and for the public sector. So it helps establish and put out those good ideas, and commercialization is one of the ways that we get a benefit from that. Here at NavAir, we really use the program to solve a Navy need. And next slide, please. Okay, so small businesses, many of you may be familiar with NAICS, right? The thing about this SBIR program is it is agnostic to the NAICS. Okay, to be eligible for the program is super simple. You got to have at least or at most 500 employees. You have to do business in the United States. You have to be organized for profit. And last one here, and independently owned and operated. Now that's got a little fuzzier lately as times have changed, and so there's more leeway, if you will, in the law lately is about how ownership is done. So that is handled on a case-by-case basis, and during the award process, the companies have to sign a certification and attest to the level of ownership of the company if it's not completely owned by the person who is applying for the proposal. And then you can see there are some limits about how much work that must be done by the proposing small business. So like I said, for SBIR, they may or may not have a subcontractor, but if they do, for phase one, they have to do at least 2/3 of the work. And in phase two, they have to do at least 50%. So for STTR, again, they must have a sub. It has to be a research institute. And so the small business has to do at least 40% of the work, and the research institute at least 30%. That other 30% can be done by the small business that proposes. It could be done by the research partner, or they could have yet a second subcontractor. Primary employment of the principal investigator, which is the corporate equivalent of a SME or a TAE, has to spend at least half of their time with the small business, and all of the research and development work must be done in the United States. Next slide, please. Okay, so there's a lot in this slide, and I'll try to parse it down. So starting at the top, is how the program works is we canvass the enterprise, our scientists and engineers, and basically anybody, for a problem statement. We call that a topic. Okay, we bring them into the SBIR office. They go through the rest of the organization and get evaluated by domain leads. They get prioritized by PMAs, and they eventually get selected by our CTO. So we typically, for every call we have, and we do this 2 or 3 times a year, we'll get 80 to 100 proposals, which we down select to about 25. Once those go out into the broad agency announcement, the proposals come in, and our office has established a framework so that those proposals come in, and then they are evaluated by an evaluation team of 3 people typically for the qualification of the proposed team from the small business, the commercialization potential, and then the technical merit and the degree of innovation of the proposed solution. We give the teams 60 to 90 days because by law, we must give the results of that evaluation in 90 days. And then we will make a notification, and then we will put a procurement package together in 30 days, and we make the award, the phase 1 award. So from the time the BAA closes to the time we make awards is typically 4 months. Okay, and that starts the process. And like I said, for each topic, we typically pick 3 firms. They will go through and do a feasibility study. So that's the outcome of a SBIR phase 1 or an STTR phase 1 as well, is a feasibility study. We'll bring the team back together. they'll down select from 3 and pick one firm that will then go to phase 2 to continue the work and do prototype development. And then later on down the line, and I'll talk more about it on the next slide, there are some strategies we can use in case, one phase 2 wasn't enough. Maybe there was a schedule slip, maybe the technology needed more than $1 million to get going. And then finally, the goal though at the very end is either during that first phase 2, or if we have to do a sequential phase 2, is to get to phase 3, which is where the technology transitions. And so the important thing to remember about a phase 3 is to up to this point, we've been using those SBIR, STTR set aside funding dollars. But for phase 3, that funding has to come from someplace else other than SBIR or STTR funding. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is kind of the same information that was on the previous slide, but now it's kind of in the time domain. So, and I've added the time for each of the phases. So you can see a phase 1 is always 6 months. We do a base. And then for the firm that I said gets selected to go to phase 2, they get an option. We do that so that we can continue the work that was done under the phase 1 base, get ready to go into the phase 2, and that extra funding and time allows the small business to keep the team together. So once we get to phase 2, those awards are the way we structure them here, and every syscom and every agency probably structures them a little bit differently. There are some limits. So right now, the limit for a phase 2 by law is just under $2 million. We structure ours here at NavAir for $1 million base and a $300,000 option for 2 to 3 years, depending on the technology and what the was negotiated between the government and the small business. And then you can see we have in that blue box, we have some strategies to take care of, like I mentioned earlier, maybe there was a requirements change, the schedule slipped, maybe that first tranche of funding wasn't enough to get the technology where it needed to be. But so let me put just some numbers here to you. So for NavAir, for phase 1s, phase 2s, and for 2.5s, for the most part, for FY22, we did $132 million in awards. So that was 117 SBIR awards and 15 million went to STTRs. For phase 3 for FY22, we did $368 million went to NavAir, SBIR, or STTR topics. So that's my objective 1, right? There is opportunity here if you're a small business. So it's just the NavAir, just our syscom, $500 million in SBIR awards. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide, these are just some of the areas of interest. They change, I'm sure, over this course of this 3 days. You've heard about capability, affordability, and availability, safety and training, et cetera. The thing I want to take away here is we focus on in the NavAir, and most of the SBIR and STTR efforts are enabling technologies, right? That's where our sweet spot is. We're not going to build the next generation fighter. We're not participating in one of the options for FEL. So we're doing things that are maybe sensors on the next generation fighter or a coding here, but it's really where the SBIR, STTR really hits the mark is in enabling technologies. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's my objective number 2. This is something we do a little bit differently here, maybe than other places that do an SBIR, STTR program, because within the funding we get for the program, it gives us some latitude to do some things, and this is one of the things that we've chosen to do here. So we actually aggressively seek projects where we can do demonstrations, where we can put them in a lab, do a bench test, maybe do a ground test event on an aircraft in a hangar, but something to get an early look, put the technology in front of the eyeballs of the stakeholders and get some sort of feedback. So we have funding we can give to the firms for this. We also have funding we can give to apply government resources to this. So we've done some of these. We want and need to do more. Where we really hit the mark well is in the experimentation. So we're tied in very close to our RPEG group. We participate in the Antexes, Flexes. Right now we're trying to get our SBIR technologies in the integrated battle problems. We've had our SBIR projects fly on F-18s, on Navy and Army H-60s. So we've had them out on the carriers and out on other naval ships. So the experimentation effort that we're doing here is really, we feel like it's making a difference. Next slide, please. Okay, so what we have going on here is we have broad agency announcement coming up in pre-release on the 29th of November. So NavAir has 19 SBIR topics will be in that BAA and 6 STTR topics. And so you can see when the pre-release dates and the open and closed dates will be. And then for 24.2 and B, we'll release about the same amount of topics. So there's the website, not only where you can make your submissions, but where you can see all the broad agency announcements and the dates. Next slide. Okay, this NavAir transition program is something that is done at the Navy level. As far as we know, it's really one of its kind. What it does is it allows phase 2 awards and companies to take part in getting some marketing done, some business mentoring, and then getting their technologies out in front of stakeholders and at big events like FCO West and CR Space. Next slide. And then another thing that's done at the Navy level is this the Department of the Navy Experimentation Cell. We work very closely with them. They provide resources as far as intellect and experience on how to get our technologies maybe onto a ship or onto an aircraft. And then Navy launch is something that's also done at the Navy level. And that's trying to open up the aperture for the small businesses so that they can find markets outside of the DoD. Next slide. Here's a couple of resources. So I encourage you to go to sbir.gov or navysbir.com to find out more. Next slide. Here you can follow us on social media. And finally, this last slide should have my contact information. So where you can, if you got any questions, there's not any time for them today, but you can send me an email. It will come to me. And then also we will be out, me and 2 of my other colleagues will be out in the area out there to answer any questions for the rest of the day. Okay, that concludes my brief. Thanks for your time and attention.
Would like to walk around and talk, and we're streaming. Okay. This one, absolutely. Good afternoon. Yesterday I came in and it was packed. Yeah. I need to turn it on. Good afternoon. So not only did I waste 1 minute of my time, I'm going to show you how quickly we can go through this. Yesterday I came in, I couldn't find a seat in the house. I was thrilled. And I was thrilled not because I couldn't find a seat in the house. I was thrilled because PEO UNW has worked really hard to bring all of you together for an opportunity to not only learn what they need, but to give you the guidance and the tools you need to succeed. That's pretty hot. But I want to also encourage you to understand that when you come to these events, network, shake hands, meet each other. And every time you go on a break and come back, don't sit in the same seat, because it gives you an opportunity to find those partnerships that we need in order for us to meet our requirements, to go ahead and prepare for the one adversary that we are worried about, right? So my name is Irma Alexander, by the way. All this time I'm spending all this money, right? This time. I want to tell you that the Office of Small Business is composed of several deputies. I am one of them. I'm the Deputy Director for NAVAIR Headquarters. With me today is Cynthia Thompson, if she will stand up. And she is from NOC AD, Patuxent River. She is the Assistant Deputy Director. So let me move on to my next slide. So what do? We advocate. We advocate for solutions to the warfighter. That is our purpose for being here. We work on solving NAVAIR missions that are given to us, whether it be a requirement from the fleet or any of the sister services. And we do this in a lot of different ways, but the most common way that we do this is through outreach. We go to matchmaking. We align with the SBA. We align with Apex to help all of the small business succeed, because we advocate to maximize your opportunities, small businesses, at NAVAIR. This starts at the very beginning when we do market research, and it continues all the way beyond post-award. So we are here to support you. The other thing that we do is we have this great website that I encourage you to visit. It's got a lot of great information. It has videos, it has announcements. You can find the long-range acquisition estimate there. For those of us who have been around a little longer, is the long-range acquisition forecast. You have the tools that you need to succeed. There is no reason why you should not be engaged in helping us solve problems because you don't know what you don't know. Come to us and we will enlighten you on how to connect with the programs. We will enlighten you on how to be procurement ready. Everybody is here so that we can succeed as a team. Please don't overlook that. Next. So what I want you to see up here is kind of like that obligatory slide, right? We are given targets every year that we have to achieve. They're negotiated. In the blue, you will see the fiscal year 23 targets. I will tell you it's not easy. And sometimes throughout the year, it's a little bit stomach turning. But I'm happy to say that this year we were able to meet our targets for FY23. But don't be fooled into thinking that the Office of Small Business is focused on targets, because that is by far not the case. Our focus is on mission accomplishment. Our focus is making sure that the Marines and sailors are being taken care of by giving them the best technology that we can, by equipping them with what we've got so that we can increase their readiness. You know, I hear that we're going to fight tonight. I'm a Marine. We are fighting already. So don't be fooled into think you have a couple of hours on the strip alert. We are ready now, and we need you to join us. We need you to bring your brilliance to us, and we need you to help us, right? So when you do come to us, do me a favor. Come to us with a homework done, ready to communicate, and ready to engage so that the PDPMs, the IPT leads, know exactly what you're bringing to them and how it makes a difference for them. Next. So finally, this is the one you take, nominate, and take to the field. This is a slide that you, if you remember anything, is 6 deputy directors at NAVAIR Enterprise standing by to support you. What you do is the blue highlighted numbers, that is what's going to guide you as to who to contact. And I will ask you, if you don't know who to contact, close your eyes. Go turn your finger around a couple of times and let it drop. And whatever it drops, that's who you call. We will make sure you find your position to get started engaging with us. Thank you very much and appreciate your patience on my little blunders at the beginning. Thank you. Take care.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Rick Tarr. I'm the director of the NOC Technology Transfer Office, and a lot of the folks both today and yesterday talked about our capabilities, some of them up here, but our office is the home of the non-FAR-based agreements. So any of the partnering agreements that get access to the labs that we've talked about yesterday and today, joint simulation environment, JSC, a lot of the underlying software and environments are available via our office and partnering. The agreements we use, next slide, are up there. So create a really powerful agreement that lets us collaborate and do collaborative R&D with industry. Commercial service agreements, Mr. Farmer mentioned that earlier, giving access to industry for testing their products in fleet relevant environments. And we also have a robust patent portfolio that's available for commercialization. It's available on our website at the bottom. We do have a booth in the other room that is being manned by Amy and Michelle. If y'all could stand up. Between the three of us, we can get you to the right place to do CRADAs. We can find opportunities to partner with our labs. We work with the Office of Small Business Programs as well to find, especially for small businesses, that place within our organization to connect. And then finally, we talked about it a little bit. We do provide venues for demonstration experimentation. There's currently a NAVAIR BAA. We're calling our North Stars BAA. Part of that is you can propose an experimentation at one of our ranges, labs, or facilities. So that goes across the NOCs. So definitely check out the North Stars BAA for more information. And we will be in the other room for questions. Thanks.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Clinton. I'm the business consultant for Southern Region, St. Maurice County. Basically here to represent small business development, which is a premier resource under the SBA. And we're also hosted by the College of Southern Maryland. If you need to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us through sbdchelp.com. And the phone number is 301-934-7583. Also, we're hosted and have a partnership and a collaboration with the local St. Maurice County Department of Economic Development. So together we work to help the people that want to start businesses and sustain their businesses. Is there another slide? Okay. Awesome. So without the other slide, let me just ad lib for a couple moments. So, okay, I think it's in details. Okay. 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 That's one way to make me feel special. Okay, we can use this. So with our SBDC services, as you can see, we do one-on-one business consulting, and that's no cost business consulting, by the way. Your tax dollars has already covered it. Your consulting is done by individuals that have a lot of experiences in businesses that they've prior run or currently run. And most of those individuals, such as myself, love what we do. So we're not worried about making $1 million. We are worried about making sure people have a great understanding of how to start and sustain their businesses. Of course, we do that via seminars and workshops in terms of training. We do the technical help, the research. Using SBDC Net is an awesome website. And we also do third-party review of your plans. See another slide. Okay. Hey, interesting. So that means this is some very powerful information. Obviously, you all really need to have it, right? Stay with them through the whole time, allow them to still work with their own personal accountants and whatnot to get the job done. If you would go to the last slide, please. Okay, we have question and answers that we'll be able to deal with out at the other section. I have a little booth set up out there, and we can get one-on-one and answer any and all of the questions that you may have. Okay? Apologize for the technical issues, but I'm not going anywhere. I'll be right out there. Thank you very much.
probably could. Is this one on? Yep. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Can we hear me now? My name is Carol Frisch, and I am the OTA Program Manager for all the NOCs and NavAir. Next slide, please. Most of you probably already know about something about the OTAs, but we awarded the NASC back in June 2019. And like I said, it's for China Lake and TSD, Point Magoo, all of NavAir, NOCs, and everybody. Next slide, please. I'll try to make this fast because I know we have a booth out there. So if anybody has any questions about the OTAs and you want some additional information, you can stop and see me. Next slide, please, Glenn. Here's all our technology areas. These are really broad. We cover everything that NavAir and the NOCs would focus on. And if there's technologies that we don't have, we could add, but we've never had an OTA where we haven't had the technology. Next slide, please. So far, as of to date, we've done 66 awards and $756 million. I know that maybe a lot of you maybe haven't heard of OTAs. Again, stop at the booth out there so I can, and a gentleman from CMG is there, so we can help you explain anything, any of your questions and any of the technologies or the process. Next slide. And here's how you become a consortium member. If you haven't, it is currently free. So it takes about 15 minutes online. Here is the website. So again, if you've got any questions, I'll be at the booth, or if you want to join or haven't joined, here is the website. Next slide, please. And here is my contact information. If you guys even know of somebody like in a PMA that maybe might have a prototype or want to do any type of technology, a process or anything like that, let them know to get a hold of me and we can walk them through and see if they can't, if they fit the description for a prototype or an OTA. A lot of times, since there's only me, I don't get out to all the PMAs as much as I should. But if you know somebody that is interested in doing an OTA, or just let them know and have them contact me, and please take down my email information. I welcome all comers for any questions. And that's it.
Good afternoon. My name is Jen Brown. I'm with the PACS Partnership, and I'll wait until the slides populate. Actually, for those that are here in person, I'm curious by show of hand, because it's really quiet and I don't want to be the only one talking or engaging. Please raise your hand if you are familiar with or are a member of the PACS Partnership. Raise your hand. Okay, so that's a good majority in the room. We are a nonprofit membership-based organization, and our informal tagline is connecting the dots. So everyone can read the screen. I'm not going to read for you, but essentially we're really focused on advancing education, technology, science and technology transfer, and fostering workforce development. And we're really about cooperation and collaboration, bringing together government, industry, and academia. Really bringing together folks in the Southern Maryland region. So for those of you that are not based in this area and you're looking for a segue to the community and making connections, TPP is a great avenue for that. And welcome you to talk to me after. I do have a few more other slides. So the QR code will take you to the TPP website, and that's my contact information on there. If we can go to the next slide, that will highlight our upcoming TPP programs. And actually tonight, we are having one of our quarterly panels with the Association of Naval Aviation. Featuring the new N98 director, and that's going to be just down the road at the Pax River Naval Air Museum. For those of you not familiar with the area, it's about a 12 to 15-minute drive from here. And it's a great opportunity to have one-on-one with flag officers and senior level SESers and program managers talking about different topics. And next week, we are having the Rear Admiral Nancy LaCour, the Commandant of Naval District Washington, to talk about what's going on there and the focus on at PAX Naval Air Station. And next Wednesday, we're going to be doing a panel. You know, just down the road is St. Mary's County Airport and the Aero Park Innovation District. So we're going to have a panel. Chris Casalimas will be on there, who you'll hear from in a little bit, and just some really exciting things that are happening there. So I welcome you to attend that. And then we have an annual meeting, and we will be featuring Dr. Yolanda Wilson, president of the College of Southern Maryland, which is a tri-county community college that has been a great academic partner for us in our initiatives. And we just announced today, TPP puts out a weekly newsletter. So again, visit our website and sign up to get that. It's not flashy, but it's content rich. And you'll learn that we are going to be helping to support the next NOC AD Industry Day on Wednesday, October 25th, and there will be one-on-one sessions involved with that. So visit our website. And the next slide. Highlight some of our education and workforce development initiatives, and you'll see examples of programs and things that we have supported in the past. And I would be remiss to not share information about a new effort. It is the Southern Maryland 2030 Workforce Development Initiative, which is a joint effort with the Southern Maryland Navy Alliance with funding provided by NOC AD. And essentially that is focused on building up the STEM pipeline, increasing career opportunities, and partnering with government, industry, and academia. And we are really focusing on connecting talented high school and college students with apprenticeships and internships. And so that is really exciting. This past year was our first year of the program. We had great success with 41 college interns here in Southern Maryland, and our Tech Jobs Rule apprenticeship program had 41 students. And for this upcoming school year, we have 64 high school apprentices. So they're doing 450 hours of on-the-job training and getting paid for it while completing education requirements, which is super exciting. And we're always looking for companies to host apprentices. And so at the bottom, you'll see some important dates. Next Monday, the portal is opening for companies to sign up to host interns for next summer. And the deadline is November 3rd. We're pulling that back to enable onboarding and getting things in process for the students who may need base access and all that good stuff. And there will be some virtual info sessions, and you can scan that QR code for Southern Maryland 2030. And I'll be out there for a little bit, but heading down to the museum to help my colleagues with final prep, and look forward to engaging with you if I don't know you already. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Eileen Abel. I am the Executive Director of the University System of Maryland at Southern Maryland, the place where you are right now. And I have to say a very belated welcome to this amazing campus. I don't have a PowerPoint, but what better visual could you possibly have than sitting in this room and being in this building today? So this building was opened in October of 21, and it was a vision of a multiple of people who were involved in looking at programming and looking at opportunities on how to connect government, academia, and industry in Southern Maryland, particularly around autonomous systems. That's just one part of our mission, though. The second part of our mission is to offer bachelor's completion programs to meet the workforce needs in the region. So we partner with 6 University System of Maryland schools, and we bring in transfer students from the College of Southern Maryland. And the bachelor's completion programs are designed, as I said, specifically to meet the workforce needs. We have computer science, we have data science, we have engineering, both mechanical and electrical. We have lots of other programs, particularly around education, social work, criminal justice, and human resources. If you know of anybody who's interested in doing any of these programs, please send them to our website. We've got great university partners, world-class education right here in people's backyards, and connecting them to business and industry. We're also at the hub of the aspirational Aero Park District. I hope you all have the opportunity to hear the update that Chris Casalamas will give next week. It's a great opportunity for us to really think about how we embed education and academia at the heart of what's happening with the Aero Park Innovation District. I hope you all have a great couple days. Welcome again to this campus. If there's anything I can do to help you understand a little bit more about our educational opportunities here, or to use USMSM as an event space, please feel free to get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. So anyway, have a great day, and thanks again for being here.
We still working on the computer? No slides? Hey, let's roll. Cool. So I am, get rid of this. So I am Joe Copenhaver. I am the research lab manager here in the Matrix lab. Now, Dr. Aileen Abel may have just went over USMSM. However, you may see these lab spaces, the nice giant glass walls. So inside of that is the Matrix lab. We are hosted down here. We are at Clark School of Engineering research lab, boots on the ground down here in Southern Maryland. Now, the acronym Matrix. We're not some movie. We're not Neo. We're not Morpheus. However, it was tongue-in-cheek when we created it. It stands for the Maryland Autonomy Technology Research, Innovation, and Exploration Lab. Acronyms. We all love them. We're going to use them. So we're the Matrix Lab. We are a research lab focusing on AI and autonomy because we believe it is not the next frontier. We believe it is the current, the present, is what we're focusing on entirely. So no slides, but we'll continue on. The lab spaces you may have seen coming in, you walked in this morning, giant gymnasium. In fact, it's not a gymnasium. That is an open air lab. The entire lab space itself is shielded. It's an 80 by 40 by 60 open air space that is then supplied motion capture from Vicon. These are tracking cameras that track spheres down to 6 micron levels of accuracy. So if you're doing indoor flights in a GPS denied environment, you can create markers that will track your systems or supply a GPS signal to your devices. We do a lot of multi-domain research. If you notice there's grates in the floor, that is for water tank. You can do multi-domain research. We have an antenna farm on top of the building. So if you're trying to communicate to an outside system, you can do so. The lab with the giant blue fiberglass water tunnel, that is a 17,000 gallon water tunnel that is used for analyzing and studying hydrodynamic behaviors in systems and objects. We also have on site an anechoic chamber. I know we have a few here on base. However, we have a smaller 20 foot by 8 foot by 8 foot anechoic chamber, as well as the signal generators and analyzers to go along with it and the staff. We also have state-of-the-art manufacturing labs here, both additive and subtractive manufacturing, along with the staff that is trained to produce parts down to extremely tight tolerances. We do have an electronics shop on site as well for PCB milling, pick and place machines, and reflow ovens. It's for research and development. We're not doing runs of hundreds of boards. We're doing, onesie twosies and then maybe 10 to 20 if you'd like that. Now, the focal points of our lab will always be researching uncrewed, automated, and autonomous systems, as this is our focus across industry and DoD. The ways we do that are through innovation, education, and training. Our lab is doing so by conducting research into the next technologies, as well as educating and training others. One of the examples is short courses that are taught by UMD College Park professors down here in Southern Maryland. Recently, we had a small UAS short course. It was a 2-week program. Anybody could come in. We had a few Navy interns from the Pathways program, I believe, actually come in for the short course. They were able to learn about the systems and then how to operate them as well. We do also conduct all forms of research here. We are flexible in nature, as that we have the bandwidth to convert the spaces for specific needs and applications, as well as we have the resources at Clark School of Engineering to bring down. We have on-staff research scientists as well as postdoctoral researchers to supply and help with the research. We're also looking into conducting workforce development, mostly through outreach, summer camps, and undergraduate degrees through USMSM, as Eileen Abel has gone over. And I encourage any of you to contact us with any questions and interests in our research labs to myself or Matt Scasser, our Director of Operations and Outreach here at the Matrix Lab. All of our information related to the lab spaces, contact information, how we can actually conduct research with you can be found at thematrix.umd.edu.com. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ronnie Gist. I'm the Associate Director of the Maryland Industrial Partnerships. We are part of institute at the University of Maryland College Park, known as MTech for short. That's the Maryland Technology Enterprise Institute. And before I forget, I do have a table out in the room here, second table on the right, lots of literature, and I'd be happy to talk to you. I'll be here till the end of the day. So what is, I'm going to be emphasizing MIPS. We are one program of many in MTech that is here to assist entrepreneurs in all kinds of ways. I won't go into any detail about the other programs, but I do have flyers on many of them. So MIPS is the one usually of most interest for small businesses because we have grant funding from the state of Maryland for R&D projects. What we do is we foster, as the slide says, academic industrial partnerships. What that basically means is we have funding to fund professors at the universities, any campus in the system statewide, and including St. Mary's College, and including Morgan State University. So that's your faculty pool of researchers available to do projects for you. And MIPS funds 90% of the project cost up to 100K. I've got another slide on that for small startups, 20% for small companies up to 100 employees, and 50% of the cost if you're over 100 employees. Next slide, please. So the MIPS projects, and what makes MIPS different from every other grant program I've ever heard of, statewide or nationwide, is that we're funding the professors at the departments at those campuses. We're not funding the company. This is not for the company to have seed or capital equipment, et cetera, operating costs. There are other grant programs for that. We are just for R&D projects, and our funding goes to the faculty at the campus, and your 10% or 20% or 50% also goes there. Jointly funded, not required to be university IP. I always like to emphasize this. We are not a tech transfer program. We get often confused with tech transfer programs. We welcome technology that was developed on campus. We often do fund projects that were originated on campus or whichever campus, but we are all about any company in the state with anything they've been working on. It's their own IP. You don't have to share it with us. We're going to help you advance it. We're going to help you build a prototype. We're going to help you test whatever the project is, any science, any technology, not required to be university IP. There is an IP policy if something new is created. Won't go into detail about that, but it's very, very flexible and friendly licensing arrangements if new IP is created during the MIPS project. Next slide. I briefly said these percentages, won't go into detail. Happy to talk to you outside afterward. I only have my 5 minutes. But the vast majority of MIPS projects are with startups. They're the ones usually really needing the funding, looking for funding. But we do projects with Northrop Grumman. We've done projects with Under Armour. We've done projects with HughesNet Satellite in Germantown. There's always projects that companies are interested in doing of any size where they would like to have or maybe need a faculty connection, especially for some of the specialized equipment that we have on campus. It gives you access to utilize that equipment. The totals there down on the bottom left are for a 2-year project. So it's $100K per year for startups, $125 for small, and so on. And you could do 1 or 2-year projects, just depends on the scope, what you need to do, how much funding you think you need. Next slide, please. Process, we do 2 deadlines every year. Got one coming up October 16th because 15th is a Sunday this year. Every May 1st, every October 15th. So it is a competitive grant process with hard deadlines. If you apply in October, you see the process it's going to go through. You'll know if you won an award on December 7th, I believe it is. It's always well before Christmas. And if you apply in May, we'll let you know about the middle of June. And the project would then begin, if you apply this round, the project would begin February 1. Next slide. And this is real quick. We also have, in addition to our standard MIPS funds, which are for any technology, any science, we have a fund with the DNR, specifically for Chesapeake Bay water quality improvement projects, climate change mitigation projects. So I'd be happy to talk to you about that. My contact info is at the bottom. Again, I'm out here with a table and plenty of literature and business cards. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. You hear me okay? Great. My name is Dale Moore. I'm the Executive Vice President of Southern Maryland Navy Alliance. We've been in place for a little over 30 years now. We got started when discussions about BRAC started to go. So the Navy Alliance engaged in that BRAC activity. We interact with all the various activities. Our focus is to take care of Southern Maryland. It's our innovation ecosystem. It's our incubator. That's our focus, and we see it as an integrated community inside and outside the gate, and doing what we can to move things forward. We are comprised of roughly 40 companies. We interact with the chambers of commerce, economic development commissions in the Tri-County area. We are a network of networks moving forward. Our big focus is to keep an eye on legislation up on the Hill. We partner with the Roosevelt Group to keep an eye on what's going on up there with significant impacts. Next chart, please. So we advocate with local, state, and federal agencies. Next chart. Okay, you're good. That's good. Currently, we're doing some battle on some windmills off the shore of Maryland. That issues pop back up again, and that has an effect on the missions at Pax River, so we're watching that. We recently got engaged in a R&D tax expense issue that will dramatically impact small businesses. We're trying to turn that around. As Jennifer mentioned, we're involved in the workforce development activities, some discussion on rapid capabilities in military construction. We have 4 different committees. We have a workforce development committee with Dottie Seminoa running that. Government relations is Kevin Swiddick. Financial management is Bob Russell, and I'm running the strategy committee. Next chart. So we're taking a look at the future. These are some of the topics that we're interested in pursuing. Working very closely with NAVAIR headquarters and NOC AD, making sure that everyone's aligned and doing what we can to synergize inside and outside the gate.
build our workforce, build our capabilities, understanding where they're going, getting the community to work together in support of the overall mission in Southern Maryland. That's all I had. Thank you.
How you doing, everybody? Good. My name is Justin Ferguson. I'm a manager and innovation mentor at TEDCO. So I want to give you a quick overview of what TEDCO is. It's only 3 slides, so it shouldn't be crazy. TEDCO stands for the Technology Development Corporation for the state of Maryland, aka Maryland's venture capital arm. So we invest in different startups, we provide mentorship and things of that nature. And we really just want to help understand where these entrepreneurs are and help them get through their entrepreneurial journey. Next slide, please. So TEDCO's been around for over 25 years, and the mission is simply put, like, how do we really build up the entrepreneurial ecosystem? We do that through identifying the entrepreneurs, bringing them into the fold, and providing that level of mentorship, funding, and connections to help them reach their goals. But we do focus on technology and life science companies, however. Next slide, please. So we have a multitude of programs, right? Essentially, we get over about 50 million from the state every year, right? So those dollars trickle down into these different programs. We fund from grants up to Series A. Series A is about $1.5 million checks to different startups. So as far as this program today, I think we're going to focus more on the federal program. So I'll skip the stem cell research and the Maryland Innovation Initiative. So within federal programs, when you have these different defense technologies and you're trying to work with the federal government, we have a huge program called DefTech that really helps these entrepreneurs. If you're looking for SBIR funding, we can help you with the proposal lab that we have. Along with that, we have the RBII and UBII, aka the Rural Business Innovation Initiative, and the urban version of that. So I'm actually the Southern Maryland rep for that. And essentially what we do is these are mentors established across the state to help find these entrepreneurs, assess their investment readiness, and get them to where they're trying to go. So we do that through projects. That's that direct mentorship. But we also have the pre-seed fund where we invest in these different rural companies. When we think about the seed stage, we have the social impact fund that's geared towards underserved founders and really providing that level of mentorship and funding as well. And we go to that series, series seed. These are more companies looking for customer acquisition, trying to build more customers, as well as the series A, you're trying to really scale your business. So those are our venture funds. So in general, I told you I'll keep this short. Think of TEDCO as that venture capital arm for the state of Maryland. We're here to support these entrepreneurs, and I have a table over there to the right if you have any other questions. So thank you.
Good afternoon. Good news is I think I'm the last speaker of the day. No, it's been a long day, so thanks for bearing with us. My name is Chris Castellamus. I'm the director of the Department of Economic Development for St. Mary's County. If you didn't know it, you are in St. Mary's County. St. Mary's County, I don't know if we have slides yet, but St. Mary's County is a great place to have an office, live, work, and play. Just some quick facts about our high-tech workforce. We have the highest number of tech workers in the country. 4th best place in the country for tech jobs, more aerospace engineers per capita than anywhere else in the country, and our STEM employment is 3.5 above the national average. So it's a pretty impressive place. Next slide, please. Pretty impressive place. One of the things that we produce, you can go to the next slide, please. I'm going to whip through this because I'm the last guy. One of the things that we produce every 2 years is this tech resource book. It lists over 200 tech companies that have an office here in St. Mary's County. If you're not in St. Mary's County, you should be. And if you locate here, you get to be in the book. I have books over at my table over there. I think I have enough books for everybody who's left here. So come on over and I'll keep it at that. So thank you very much. Next slide is my contact info.
All right. Hey, thanks for sticking around. Okay, I appreciate that. And I really want to, once again, I want to thank Brad and our ops team that has been working really hard to pull this off for both the in-person crowd and the virtual crowd. For anybody who's left virtually, thank you for staying with us. Appreciate the opportunity. Today's been a really good day. We had a good conversation about weapons. We had a good conversation. We had panels with the program managers. We had your representations from the NOC, from ONR, from the FRC, and then you had a great opportunity to get all kinds of connections within small business. So hopefully every door possible of getting yourself into and engaged with NAVAIR and the NAVAIR enterprise has been made available to you. So please continue to ask questions. Please continue to reach out. You should have lots of points of contact at this point to be able to find a way to either continue to meet, continue to example. You have the information about the white papers. Please follow that as best as possible. If you have questions about that, please ask. Okay, we will get you more information. Once again, during our panel sessions, if there were questions that were online that we did not get to, we will do our best to try to get you an answer that will be filed back into the chat. Thank you, Brad, again, for a fabulous day. Really do appreciate everybody's attention and participation today. We will see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow is the Unmanned Day and an Autonomy Day with participation from PEO USC, members from the Washington Navy Yard, as well as our autonomy office here at NAVAIR. Thank you again. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.